Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is The C.L. Bryant Show.
Welcome to The C.L. Bryant Show. This is Mike Wood sitting in for C.L. tonight. C.L. is in Washington, D.C., doing some good things with Freedom Works, and C.L. safe travels back home. Always glad to have you in Washington. The IQ goes up double while you're there, but don't stay too long because the insanity may rub off on you. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Michelle, it's been an interesting weekend.
I think you said nothing happened over the weekend. There's nothing for us to talk about.
Other than the NASCAR race, but...
well, in the soccer in North America, it was in New York where the Giants play. Or is that New Jersey? Where the Giants play.
The Giants, they're New York Giants, yeah. But neither one of them play in New York. They're all in New Jersey.
They play in New Jersey. But hey, who cares about borders? And but all those Americans came out. Plus, we had visitors from South and other parts of America, South Central America. And Chile upset Argentina. And I know that breaks your heart.
I'm crushed.
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
We also have... a lot going on the international front with the vote in England on Brexit. We have some topics to talk about on the national level. Supreme Court decision today regarding abortion and what's going on in the campaign with Hillary and Donald Trump. And then we talk a little bit about what happened at the end of the session when the lights went out at the Capitol. So anyway, we got a lot to talk about.
And I think you said permanently, but that isn't true, Mike. They didn't go out permanently.
Well,
you wish that they did.
Some may contend that the lights have been out for a long time at the Capitol, and others may wish that they go out and stay out. But
the governor said for budget cuts, we're just going to not have electricity at the Capitol because 100 years ago, it was a different Capitol building, but, there wasn't electricity 100 years ago, really. I guess it was, maybe 150 years ago.
And we also had spittoons, but anyway.
Well, they're reinstating spittoons up there.
We have some interesting guests coming in today, Michelle. We have Cassie Hammett, who is the executive director of the Hub, and look forward to visiting with her. And then also one of my former students, Pam Atchison, who is the executive director at SHRAC, who's going to come in and tell us what all SHRAC has going on.
What do you mean your former students?
Well, once upon a time, another good non-paying job I had at LSU Shreveport.
What do you say? We pay you to do this.
Yeah.
What?
For 10 years, I taught nonprofit management and decision-making at LSU, and had a really interesting class and have had some really good students come through, not only Pam Atchison with SHRAC, but I had some folks from the Providence House. I had folks from the ARC.
The opera,
the food bank, and so.
And it's a master's class.
It is a master's program for people who are involved in the not-for-profit world. It came out actually. There is an undergraduate program there that for folks. A lot of people don't realize in the nonprofit world. A lot of people grow up saying, I want to work in the nonprofit world, but what should I get a degree in? And in the past, they said, well, just get a college degree
in anything.
Anything. And actually, back in the 40s, the executive director of Boy Scouts in Kansas City, Roel Bartle, decided we need to come up with a college-specific program for people who want to work in the nonprofit world.
Well, to run the nonprofits, to understand the different facets of it.
And the concept of working with a board and the fact that you have to raise money and you have to worry about your mission statement and whatever. And Norm Dolch, actually, when he was here at LSU Shreveport, started this program on an undergraduate level, and then with help from the folks at Willis-Knighton, they came up with a master's program both for nonprofit management and health and human services. So it was a really good program. And
the reason for this, the interest to our audience, is that most of our audience, Mike, is small government and, lower the cost of things, cut budgets and different things like that. And this is about that. This is nonprofit work where not that they're getting money for the government, but they're people that care about the community, and there's a way to manage that. And that's really been something you've spent a lifetime in doing, is working in the community.
One of the first things I did when I came back to Shreveport in the early 80s was I'm an Eagle Scout, always involved in Boy Scouts, and got involved back on the local level, Norwalk Council, became involved in junior achievement, became involved in the Red Cross, became involved LSU Shreveport Foundation. And it's a great way, and you're exactly right, Michelle. One of the things my wife chaired Providence House for years. We have a lot of really good nonprofits that meet the needs of the community and do so without looking to the federal government for money to do such. And the hub is a great example, and I'm really excited about visiting with.
Well, we talk about that the Republican Party is not the party of no, but the party of solutions. And one of those solutions is that just because you don't want the government to be the handout for the poor, or you don't want the government to be involved in all of these social programs. And there's a reason for that, because it's inefficient, economically inefficient. We'll talk about that with Newt Gingrich's white paper and all of those things. But on the other hand, this community service is what makes our community better. People do have needs, and we just think there's a different way to meet them. A lot of people think Republicans are callous and don't care about the poor. That is untrue. We just see it as a different thing, where Republicans think, I need to be in there myself with my hands on, feeding the poor, teaching them how to fish so they don't have to be begging for meals. Because it isn't the best in America for people to be poor. There are jobs still out there today. And, that's a whole nother story about the cost of minimum wage. But truly, we want to see our community better.
And what better way? One of the things, and you mentioned Gingrich's white paper. One of the things that the speaker brought up is that big government cannot solve problems. They just throw money at it. It's local problems have to be solved locally, and whether it's homelessness or addiction issues or sex trafficking or whatever. The people in Shreveport know more about solving those Shreveport problems than the folks in Washington, D.C.
And the people in Shreveport, getting the volunteers from Shreveport to know their neighbor, instead of some nameless bureaucrat in D.C. where a check just comes in the mail. I think if instead of getting a welfare check, people came along and helped this person, I think it would be better all the way around. And we've got two women coming in from two different types of organizations.
No question, and it's both highly effective at what they do, and both very much needed. Your children have benefited from SHRAC. Mine have. My wife participated in the Hub Walk for sex trafficking last month. So I'm excited. And
well, it's actually preventing sex trafficking.
What did I say?
But, and before we get to them, see, we're going to start off really hot and heavy with the updates on politics that you can't wait to get to.
All right. Well, I hear music in my ear, so that means we're coming up to a break. This is Mike Woods sitting in for C.L. Bryant. We'll be back in a second. Welcome back. This is Mike Woods sitting in for C.L. Bryant.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here with Michelle. And one of the things that happened over the weekend, the United Kingdom voted to leave the EU. Why should we care? Well, our stock market has dropped 900 points in the last 2 days. Crude oil has dropped $4 in the last 2 days. Natural gas actually has gone up about 10 cents. But it was interesting in looking at the breakdown. Basically, the United Kingdom is comprised of the various nations: Ireland, Scotland, Great Britain, actually the Straits of Gibraltar. And in looking at the breakdown on the vote, London primarily comprised of the wealthy ruling class, was opposed or was in favor of leaving the EU. And the rest of the country,
and then the outlying areas like Gibraltar,
Ireland, and all that, that used to be called the United Kingdom, weren't united. Northern Ireland voted to stay. Scotland voted to stay. Gibraltar voted to stay. And so there's all kind of interesting implications now as we go forth, and some of the explanation, Michelle, as to why we're voting this way: immigration, anti-establishment, resentment against the status quo.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's kind of break that down. So, immigration. Now, talking about the EU, what would really happen? And all day today, this has been in the news cycle. Now, there's been plenty of other topics, but this has kind of been hammered out. But let's make it really simple here. They paid $150 billion a year.
England, just England.
So this is taxpayer money that England was paying to be part of the EU. One of those edicts from the EU, because you're signed up, you're in this group, and they tell you things, and they're making immigration laws.
Not
in
only
Belgium,
immigration, but trade policy. I mean, they are basically the government for all of Europe. The president of the EU was being paid £500,000 a year to serve as the president of Europe. Now, he was not elected. He wasn't
elected. He was appointed, which is the very reason why America was founded. Taxation without representation. So here England is being taxed all this money. They're paying 150 billion
pounds a year.
Okay, which is sometimes more than dollars.
Yes,
I think
not right now.
Not right now, but it used to, last year. And somebody is telling them from the outside, who's not British, how to run their country. And this all stems from the fact in the conversation all over the world today is about borders, because there are people in America that think that borders are a bad thing. Hillary being one of them. Sovereignty, people get all riled up because Trump wants to build a wall. Mexico, and it's terrible to build a wall, but we still have sovereign borders in our country. And I can tell you there are globalists that think that is a good and kind thing to do to diminish borders so we have less wars. Because if everybody on the planet sings Kumbaya together, and who doesn't want that? I mean, everybody wants peace, but it's not going to come because you tell me that now we're all going to be one and the same, like one size fits all, because we're so unique and different.
Well, and in this day and time, because of political correctness, we cannot talk about our heritage. We could not talk about history because
can't talk about people's religion or your own religion because you offend me because you're religious. That's not what America's about. America isn't about monetize, making us all just one and bland. It's about accepting the fact that we're different, but with the limitation of laws that we have in the Constitution, basically, so that everybody can live freely but not be the same. So to me, it sounds like Britain is trying to catch up with us.
Well, no question, and there's some implications on down the line. The interesting thing, Michelle, in doing research today, 40,000 employees for the EU in Belgium. It doesn't make any difference whether it's local government, whether it's state government, national government, international government. Once you start giving money to somebody that's not responsible for it, what in the world do the 40,000 employees in Belgium do for the EU? I mean,
what
it's
do they
crazy.
do to make a better quality of life for the citizens in Europe? The people in England, all of England, Ireland, Scotland, $150 billion. There's not 150 billion people in those little tiny countries, and that's just their contribution. Now, is that 10% of the entire budget? Or
About, yes.
Yeah, it's only 10% of this budget. So I say give the money back to the people in England, empower the individuals. That's what trickle down economics is all about. Don't pay out 150 billion. Give it to the people there. Let them start businesses. Let them create cottage industries, and see if that doesn't cause them to thrive and have less wars. Because everybody says, now this is I have a lot of liberal friends that I respect and listen to. They say, well, we need to have education. That wars are started because of a lack of money and a lack of education, a lack of jobs. Give me that 150 billion. We can create some jobs and we won't have wars around the planet. We could have fed up all the people starving in Africa for a year and more with that 150 billion.
Well, it's going to be interesting as we go forward, because now the politicians in France and the politicians in Denmark and other countries are saying we need to have a referendum on the EU. And so this could be
and
the
didn't they
beginning
bail
of
out
the EU.
Greece?
Oh yeah, they've bailed out.
So the EU's money that bailed out Greece, who had faulty economic policies in their sovereign
day
country, they made bad decisions. They said, no, we're going to be crazy and do this and irresponsible, but because we know the EU is going to bail us out. So I think some of this is backlash from the people in England that said, we didn't agree with you allowing Greece to do that. It's just like our kids. If we're paying for them and they're 21, they may be adults, but they don't get to tell us no because we own them. So Greece needed to listen to the EU if they were going to be bailed out by the EU. If you want independence, then you don't, and freedom to make your decisions, then you don't need bailout money from another entity.
And as we go forward, England never really completely embraced the EU. They didn't go with the euro. They stayed with the pound sterling. And interestingly enough, in 1975, Scotland voted against joining the EU, but this time they supported staying in the EU. So there's going to be some political fallout. And of course, the question is now, as NATO goes into session next month, what is President Obama going to do?
I can only imagine what he's thinking.
What are the implications as far as his political legacy? Because this is all come about under his. And remember, he went to England and lobbied that they should support, and he was not well received.
I think the takeaway from this is that we can be proud as Americans that we didn't just export Nike and our clothing and movies. We've exported the desire to be free around the planet, and we're starting to see this crop up everywhere. I have friends that do international campaigns all over the world. There are people that are desiring individual freedom, and you know how they're learning about it? Through social media, through Facebook, and say, you know what? I want to be like an American. I want to have an opinion.
And there are some positives. The dollar is stronger. Money is coming into the United States. Mortgage rates are declining. So who knows? Stay tuned. There's more to come. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about national news, Supreme Court decisions today. We're going to talk about state news and get ready for some interesting guests. Mike Wood sitting in for C.L. Bryant. Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. This is Mike Wood sitting in for C.L. tonight, who is in Washington, D.C., and I'm here with Michelle, and we're discussing all the interesting things that happened
Solving
over
all the
weekend.
world's problems
Yes.
right here from this studio.
Yes. Well, the Supreme Court ruled today striking down Texas abortion laws, and the interesting implication of that is that the Texas required abortion centers to be certified surgical centers, and they also required doctors having admitting privileges to local hospitals, both of which are in the Louisiana law. So it's going to be interesting that the court ruled that this was based on the facts from Texas only and cannot be interpreted to go to apply to other states. But as always happened, this will open the door for a lot of challenges to the various states. 23 states require that abortion centers be certified surgical centers, and 10 states require that doctors have admitting privileges. So it's going to be interesting as we go forth. And Michelle, this is one of the reasons that the upcoming presidential election, regardless of who you support, is important, because the next president will support a minimum of, will appoint a minimum of probably 3, if not 4, Supreme Court justices. So
Yeah, and it was a 5-3 vote, and I don't have the law right here to read. We'll put it out on Facebook for our listeners to review it. This is not about being anti or pro-abortion. This was specifically about tightening up health laws at the facility, because women have died. If you are really concerned about women getting a safe access to healthy abortions, I'm not talking about that because we're not saying that we're pro-choice or pro-life, because we're looking at this on its face, and that's what this was about. And I don't understand how it is wrong if you're saying that medical procedures are done in this abortion facility, that they don't have to meet up to the standard of any other health clinic. That doesn't make any sense when we're trying to be healthier and protect this woman. If you truly wanted a woman to have access to safe health care, Hillary should be upset that this law was struck down. And, a lot of people that are pro-choice say, well, this is just the pro-lifers looking for loopholes. My goodness, when are we going to stop fighting about for and against and talk about the reality that these are women? Many women died not today that I know of, but in this year, because of abortions. There are so many things and effects. Why shouldn't we want healthy women and pregnancies? And then we have to get into the debate about, when does life begin? Because I'm not talking about just our faith. What about what science says when life begins? When you hear a heartbeat when you're pregnant, isn't that when life begins?
Well, that's what I was taught.
And I don't mean it's taught in Sunday school, but because there's a lot of people that aren't Christians that get offended when we say, well, the Bible says. They're offended. They're Americans, and they want the laws to be for everyone. But, what about, you're a lawyer, somebody gets killed in a car accident and she's pregnant. It's actually manslaughter if you're
Correct.
for 2. So when does that change that it isn't a baby?
It depends on whether they're in an abortion clinic or not.
Right? So these are the scientific, intelligent conversations that we need to begin to have, not name calling us against them, because we can't live as a country being so divided. We need to start to have intelligent conversation, not fear-mongering, because Hillary just says it's a bunch of white men that are Republican that just want to stop women from, easy access to whatever it is she wants them to have.
Well, of course, I saw today Wendy Davis from Texas jumped up and was applauding the decision. And of course, the battle lines are drawn once again from those on one side and those on the other. So
there's a Republican senator from Illinois that he said on Twitter that he was glad to see the Supreme Court uphold access to health care for women. I don't know if he even read that bill, because if that is really how he feels, that didn't uphold access to health care for women. That upheld access to mediocre, almost dangerous health care. So that's a Republican senator from Illinois.
Well, the home of Barack Obama. So here we go again.
And then you were talking about the price of oil.
Well, the price of oil, as I said at the beginning of the show, is down $4. We had creeped up over the $50 threshold, which is good for the state of Louisiana, because our 2017 budget is predicated on $30 crude oil. So if it holds above 50, there's another $240 million to go into the coffers for the state. But because of the Brexit vote, there are those now that are saying there's a 50-50 chance that we're going to go into a worldwide recession. and in doing so, the demand side of the equation will drop. It's been interesting, Michelle. The Saudis have been very effective in curtailing U.S. domestic production, and they initially said we want to put the U.S. producer out of business. And as we've talked about, back in January, crude oil was $26 a barrel, and there were a lot of folks that were in a world of hurt. The Texas comptroller the other day made a comment that if oil stays below $50 this year, 1 out of 3 oil and gas producers in the state of Texas will go into bankruptcy. And there are some large companies that are in the process of going through that.
And that can affect, we've talked about that, not on the air, but the long lingering effects, because they're not going to pay out on things like people that they were drilling on their property, and then there's the side effect of...
that you have an abandoned well, that ultimately the landowner is responsible for plugging the well.
This is huge ramifications.
Yeah.
But you're saying that, so we need to keep it above $50.
Well, there's no magic number what it needs to stay above. The magic number is that it just needs to be stable. I mean, we made money at $10 crude oil. We made money at $20. I mean, because as the price fluctuates, when it stabilizes, drilling costs stabilize. All of the other assorted and sundry. So you just need to be able to anticipate what your cash flow is. The hard thing is when it's $100 and then goes to $20. You just don't wake up and decide I'm going to start drilling tomorrow. So
and this is all back to Brexit, that you said that it dropped because they're fearful of a worldwide recession. What's upsetting to me is that that's the kind of manipulation that's going to be dumped on the people, a guilt trip put on the people of England.
Well, and tell me what the EU, I mean, in their infinite wisdom, their 40,000 employees,
$150 billion a year
thrown away. This is Mike Wood sitting here with Michelle. We'll be back in a minute.
Loves Jesus in America too. She's a good
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. This is Mike Wood sitting in for C.L. tonight, who is in Washington, D.C. Well, Michelle, besides the Supreme Court decision, a lot's heating up politically in the presidential campaign. There's been a lot of name-calling today. Hillary was campaigning with Elizabeth Warren, and it's been interesting. Elizabeth Warren contends that Trump has a funny hat, and Trump responds by calling her Pocahontas, and he's got his surrogates asking about her DNA because, you know, at one time in one of her resumes, she claimed to be part Native American. And so.
Well, that's how she got a job. There's specific details to this. This isn't just a fairy tale. And she said that she was to receive a scholarship, partial scholarship, because she had Indian blood. So it isn't just somebody, that was something, and Donald Trump didn't start that story. That was years ago.
Yeah, that was
and
back
I
in
think
like
it's
03.
the inauthentic thing. I mean, I don't understand how people can lie to you and then you want to trust them with your vote. The numbers coming out, and all the media is talking about what happened over the weekend with Hillary deleting an email that indicated that she knew that she wasn't supposed to have, top secret emails on that server, and she deleted it, but the staffer who received it was brought forward.
Well, and it's been interesting, as we were talking about what happened in the United Kingdom with the EU vote, the pollsters were wrong there, the bookies were wrong there, and although I've not seen a poll that has Donald Trump actually leading Hillary, the election isn't until a few months, and interestingly enough, there's a Texas poll that came out that suggests that over half of Bernie Sanders supporters will not vote for Hillary.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting as we go forward. I know there are those that said, I'm not going to vote if Trump's the Republican nominee, but there are also those who are saying, I'm not going to vote if Hillary's the nominee. So it's going to be interesting. But again, as we stated earlier, the important thing we need to remember with Supreme Court having up to 4 or more appointments during the next presidential cycle, it's critical as to who is sitting in the White House because they will be the ones making the nomination.
Well, it is critical who you elect in office, and that's what happened in Louisiana. So let's talk about this. 11:30, I guess, Thursday night was the end of this extraordinary extra special session. And now people are saying they don't know exactly what our legislators did. And
including some of our legislators who are saying, I'm not really sure what we voted on. And to think we've had the longest legislative session in the history of the state. They kicked the can on the budget and taxes until next year. Michelle, we have a $200 million deficit for this fiscal year, which ends Thursday. So not only did we not address the fiscal deficit for this year, we rejected tax overhaul. We have a looming fiscal cliff of $1.1 billion due to the temporary taxes that were passed in 2015 that will fall off in 2018. So, I made the comment that the other night that our Louisiana legislators have set us up for failure, and they really have.
Well, I think that it takes time to turn a big ship around. Some of the reason why they want to put this off to talk about the budget is to see how much money is actually coming in, because the price of oil is now $30 more a barrel than it was when we had this other deficit, and nobody gave a chance for those numbers to come out. So it isn't like they're being reckless and irresponsible. The problem is all the partisanship sometimes distracts from the true effects of things, like TOPS not being funded. But we know that TOPS needed to be looked at anyway and re-examined. Instead of 2.5, make it a 3-point threshold. Also, we know that there's many students that don't even graduate from college. So they start off with TOPS, and after a year and a half, they drop out of college, and that money's never paid for. So set up some criteria that if you don't graduate, then you have to pay it back like a student loan. I mean, and then kids will think more, because TOPS was set up not to just give everybody a free ride to Louisiana schools, but to keep the best and brightest students in Louisiana colleges to raise up our academic standards. Louisiana Tech University is a great example of that. They have had another overwhelming banner year of higher enrollment than they've ever had. And I attribute that directly to the TOPS program.
Well, and part of the equation that TOPS has helped with, not only in helping paying, but students are more prepared when they go to college. And one of the things that we've never addressed in higher ed, but tech has been a shining example, is retention. If you don't have the ability and the knowledge when you get to college, you don't stay in college. And the monies that are wasted by students that take out student loans, that take money from TOPS and go and flunk out after a year because they can't write a complete sentence or they don't know how to do math, TOPS has helped that because they had to have a certain ACT score. They had to take certain classes in high school to be eligible for TOPS. But the TOPS issue is not over yet, and there's a battle ongoing. The House voted to fund TOPS fully for the fall semester and then cut back in the spring. And there's a question as to whether or not the governor is going to veto that and just partially fund it both semesters. And the House
then we'll meet again and override his veto. And I think this is about what's unfortunate is the political football here. But at least we didn't raise more taxes and just dig the hole deeper. Basically, we just stopped digging and said, wait, let's assess the situation. What can we do? Now, the medical school is going to be funded because of other monies that are out there, and then the medical school has become a state priority. But I want to know how we have the money to build a whole nother Jimmy Davis Bridge so that the birds can be safe, but we don't have money for TOPS.
Well, I hate that you're opposed to the birds, but one of the good things that has come out of all this, HCR 11, which is a task force to look at the structural changes in on budget and tax policy, and we talked about that a little bit last week and with Dr. Roseman. So at least the House is starting to look at it, but having been involved in higher ed and serving on a board of management, I cannot imagine how these colleges and universities are preparing their budgets for July 1 when they really don't know what their funding is going to be. I mean, that's the sad thing. That isn't the way I run my business. That isn't the way that anybody who has an effective business runs it, unless you just run just on absolute, we're closing the libraries on the weekend and the lights go off at 5 o'clock and we only teach 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. So
but then there's other issues with higher education in Louisiana. We have so many institutions of higher learning. When you were president of the UL system, how many schools was that?
Well, we had 8. It's now 9 because UNO has left the LSU system and come in there. But we have 18 colleges and universities. But remember, who establishes those? It's the legislature. It's been interesting as we went through this, and they have jumped on the Board of Regents. Well, you need to do something about it. Well, folks, the elected officials who serve in the House and the Senate, they are the ones that started these schools. Why is LSUA a 4-year school when it was a 2-year school? Because then Speaker of the House from Alexandria wanted it to be a 4-year school. Board of Regents didn't want it 4 years. Nobody wanted it 4 years.
Because it's not economically feasible. And what happens is legislators get down there's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of push from their donors. And they're not thinking about economically feasible plans. So now we've got higher learning institutions that are not putting out the workforce that we need because and we're not allowed to close them. We're not allowed to consolidate them. We're not allowed to do anything because they're sacred cows. But when we come back,
we're going to talk with a young lady who is here in the studio, who is the executive director of the Hub, and she's going to fill us in on what's going on there. The other thing we have to look out for, Michelle, 226,000 people in Louisiana has signed up for Medicaid, and that's going to continue to increase and continue to cost the state more. Mike Wood sitting in for C.L. Bryant. We'll be back in a few.
They got a lot of nice girls.
Welcome back to the CL Bryant. This is Michael Woods. I'm sitting in CL's chair, and it sounds like it's raining outside. Michelle, what do you think?
I thought it was just that you were snoring.
Yeah, well, let's try. Not yet, but stay tuned.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's Donald Trump. It's actually Hillary getting mad and stomping her foot. Sounds like thunder.
Well, we have a delightful young lady in the studio tonight, and she grew up with some of my kids here, graduate of Captain Shreve High School, and is involved in the Hub, which is a nonprofit that deals with sex trafficking and other things.
Yep. Hi. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
In doing some homework on the Hub, it's a very interesting nonprofit. Why don't you just tell us a little bit how you got involved and what it's all about?
For us at the Hub, the reason we do what we do every day is, obviously we have some massive problems in our community. A lot of it tied to poverty and generational poverty and addiction and mental illness. And we just believe that there had to be a solution that was different. What we do is driven by the idea that every person is a whole person with a bunch of different things about them, and they're unique in their own ways. And so we wanted to kind of create a way to address poverty and human trafficking and a lot of the things that we see in our community in a very unique way that fits the personality of the people we're serving. And so that's all we really care about, is the people that we serve and giving them access to be able to be restored as people. And so that's what drives us every single day to do what we do.
And looking through your website as a conservative and a regular churchgoer, I was impressed. Obviously, there's a very strong faith component with the Hub. And I also like the fact that you're funded entirely by private donations in local churches.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
How does that work? How do you raise money?
Well, we do. Everything we do is based in our faith, and just to address that part, it's the biggest part of why we do what we do. As far as fundraising, we do annual fundraisers every year. We do one large one where our bigger donors come and kind of celebrate what we did this year, and kind of vision cast for the next year. But throughout the year, we do smaller things like 5Ks, restaurant fundraisers, and honestly, we've seen such a groundswell of grassroots kind of response to our organization that it's very often that volunteers or community members are doing things on our behalf. And so that's kind of where we get a lot of our funding, and then through the local church, and then through just individual donors. So
let's talk about the Lovewell Center.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as a business person, there are 4 components of the Lovewell Center: dress well, eat well, smell well, and drink well. Let's talk about that.
Right. So the Lovewell Center is based on the idea of loving people well instead of just assuming what they need, knowing them, and therefore knowing exactly what they need and loving them better than just assuming things. And so that's where the name comes from. But so inside we have 4 businesses. The laundromat is called the Smell Well. The food grocery store we have is called the Eat Well. A coffee shop called the Drink Well, and a clothing and apparel store called the Dress Well. And those are open during the week, like during our business hours. And so all of our resources are geared towards people in poverty, whether it's bus passes or medication or eyeglasses or stuff out of those stores, but none of it's free. And so the way that it works is everyone who comes in gets registered for a debit card that looks like a bank card, and then they're given a schedule of classes or different opportunities that they can earn credits on that card, whether it's like this semester we have anger management, GED program, addiction recovery, parenting, just a bunch of different...
Who teaches those classes?
Volunteers and professionals from the community come in every day and teach those classes. Financial literacy, Jobs for Life. And so, which Jobs for Life is a job recovery program. And so as they attend, they get credits, and then they can shop in our stores with those credits. And it's pretty amazing because they're learning how to earn what they need, but also there's a sense of dignity that comes when you leave somewhere with everything you need for that week or everything you need for your family, and you did everything that it took to get those things. You earned it. It's something that you put effort into instead of someone just giving you.
And you started in 2007, but you were nonprofit status 2009. That's about 5-6 years, 8 years, almost 10 years, really.
Yeah.
What kind of results have you seen? And we're talking about our local community. You're
That's
talking
right.
about real people in the Shreveport-Bossier area. What kind of results?
On the side of the Lovewell Center with people in poverty, results are hard to are kind of hard to measure in that population. But we have seen an increase in class attendance and people who are interested in the classes. We've been able to house a lot more people who were in homelessness before. There are people more interested in doing the work of seeing their lives change.
So you're saying seeing their own life.
That's right. They're
change.
invested.
There are
yeah.
a lot of homeless, and we love homeless ministries, and those are fabulous. But you were saying you wanted to help eliminate the homeless problem. And then you found that there was a lot of factors. Mental illness is one of the things. Generational poverty is another thing you talked about.
Relationships, poverty of relationships, which is a
Yes.
big deal. So we've seen an increase in people wanting to get their life together, people showing up and doing, the work of it. The culture, we feel, has changed from a very aggressive culture to a very peaceful one when you come in and there's a ton of people in there. That we've kind of seen a community form where everyone's family instead of everyone's out to get each other, trying to get what they need and push everyone
because
around.
there's enough for everyone.
That's right.
And you're going to be staying through the next block, but our listeners that are hearing this, tell them what can they do to get involved, because it sounds like there's a lot of room and opportunity for volunteers.
There is, yes, ma'am. So for the hub and for Purchase, we run off of volunteers. We're staff-led and volunteer-run. So you can go to our website at thehubministry.com and click on Get Involved, and everything you need to know is on that website. And then when it comes to Purchase, which I didn't mean working with women, there's one training that you have to go through, but then once you go through the training, you're good to go as a volunteer and can serve in a ton of different ways.
We're talking with Cassie Hammond, who is Executive Director of the Hub. Where did the concept of the Hub come from?
My brain, my scary little brain. No, the hub, the letters don't stand for anything. It kind of is shaped off of the idea of like a train station where a train comes to pick up passengers and people come who need a train. So for us, we feel people come to us who are in need and people come to us who want to meet a need. And so we just kind of serve as the hub of activity for those things.
And you are located on Cotton Street, right down from the Providence House and
That's
the
right.
Rescue Mission. Is that a coincidence or just the space was there?
Coincidence. And the building was there.
And
Yeah.
the building was there. Well,
Well, it's interesting because we've talked about the fact that we need to get involved. If we want to reduce the size of government, it doesn't eliminate people that are poor. Just because you say we don't want to expand Medicaid or we don't want to expand welfare doesn't mean that poor people and the uninsured just disappear just like that.
Right.
We have to have an alternate.
Yeah, you have to have a response. That's
Yes,
right. A solution.
exactly. And you guys have seen results, though, and we're going to talk about that when we come back. Even what you do for the DA's office,
That's
because
right.
like women getting arrested for prostitution, you can get arrested 35 times and still your life is the same.
That's right.
So what are the solutions? Because there's a taxpayer burden, as Mike knows, every time someone's arrested. I mean, I think what Americans don't realize is that we are the answer to our own problems.
That's right.
We really are. As Americans, we're empowered to make a difference in our community, reduce crime, reduce our taxes.
well, and as we talked about earlier in the show, Michelle, here is a local problem that is being addressed by a local nonprofit, not taking government money, and what better person than this young lady to come in and see a need, respond to it. Obviously, you got involved right out of college.
Yes, sir.
So if you graduated in 02, I mean, and it was started in 07, you literally just
I was a
jumped out
year
of
out
the
of college.
fire.
And
Yes,
you went
sir.
to Louisiana Tech, didn't
Yes,
you?
I
And
did.
we just talked all about
I know.
Louisiana.
I love it.
Yes, so do we.
Just out of curiosity, what did you major in?
Communication.
Communication. Well, that fits
Isn't
in
that
with
perfect?
what you're doing. Well, we will be back in a. Here's my producer. We still got a couple of minutes. Okay, thank you, Jay. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the diversion program. It's interesting the number of classes that are taught there. You mentioned that Broadmoor Baptist is heavily involved. I saw on your website that Springs of Grace provides lodging when you have mission teams
That's
that
right.
come in. What for someone who wants to get involved, for a church that wants to have our church sends, we send kids to, I think our group's in Houston right now doing mission work, and I've always said, there's mission work right here in the Shreveport-Bossier area. Why
That's
do we
right.
Why
need
do you
to
go to
out
Africa?
of town? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. If somebody wants to get involved, I'm looking at your staff on your website, and you've got different folks in charge of different things, but how do they do that?
So there's two ways to get involved. One is through hands-on volunteering, and we have groups and churches and individuals that come almost every day of the week. And on our website, thehubministry.com, there's a Get Involved tab, and you can actually fill out a form and give all of your information, and we get in touch with you and hook you up to volunteering. And then the other way we have people get involved is through giving. That's also on our website at thehubministry.com. The first thing you see is a chance to give, a button you click on, and you can give online. Those are the two biggest ways that we engage people in the community.
What is your annual budget?
Oh, that is a great question. I should pull the numbers out. Hold on. We function at about $450 a year.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting ready to go into a break. When we return, we're here with Cassie Hammett, who is the Executive Director of Hub, and we're going to talk a little bit about the diversion program as well as some of the other exciting things they have going on down there. Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. This is Mike Woods sitting in for CL, and we are sitting here with the Executive Director, Cassie Hammett, who is Executive Director of the Hub. Cassie, we were visiting about all the different programs going on at the Hub, and you were talking earlier about the diversion program. Tell me a little bit about the diversion program.
So the diversion program is a partnership with the DA's office in Caddo, between the DA and Purchase Not for Sale, which is a ministry of the Hub. And, you know, the heart behind the diversion program is to give women who are facing a charge for prostitution the opportunity to work a holistic recovery program in place of incarceration. And, you know, it was a hard sell. It's kind of a crazy thing to ask, you know, to give someone, instead of serving time, to give them a chance at a program. But the current DA is who put it into action. We had been kind of asking for a few years. And then when the latest DA came into the office, he right away put that into place, and we work with Holly McGinnis there. And so basically how it works is when a woman is going to court, she is given our information. We go and meet with her in jail. She's given the diversion information. She speaks with the DA's office, and if she agrees to do that program, she moves into our program instead of serving time for that charge. And then as she completes our program, that charge is then dropped. And so it's a way of her not only obviously recovering her life and leaving the industry of prostitution forever is our hope, but also a chance to not have that charge for the rest of her life and to really truly start over.
Well, from in conversation with you earlier, apparently, and it must be a slap on the wrist to be arrested for prostitution. Oftentimes, it's just a recurring, they're just
sir.
arrested
It's a
on
revolving door,
frequently
yes, sir.
basis.
We had a woman come into our program who had been arrested 35 times. When she entered into our program and started our program and is now graduating it 2 years later. So, we've seen women who have been the revolving door problem in our community enter into a program that addresses their issues and come out on the other side completely self-sufficient.
And you gave a kudos to DA James Stewart, and James is a longtime friend. I've worked with him heavily in Boy Scouts, and as well as his brother Carl. Again, a local person, you saw a need, you went to the DA, they addressed the need, and it got taken care of.
And we've seen extreme success with the women who've been diverted.
And looking through your website, you have numerous classes, discipleship program, jobs for life, financial literacy. You have an art class that you have. You have a GED program, building maintenance. Let's talk about some of these.
So if we're still speaking like the women in our diversion program, they walk into a full program, pretty much 8:30 to 5 every day of the week. And so those classes really, as you hear them, I mean, some people may say, why is an art class important to a woman leaving prostitution? And our guest in a second probably would agree with me to say that we want to give them experiences and teach them talents and let them uncover their gifts. And so while we do have serious classes that are really important, like trauma recovery and a job training class, we also want them to have fun, and we want them to be creative and to create something and to start a project and finish it. And so all of our classes are really strategic, and they change every semester. And so we're able to really give them a full experience of, okay, here are the things that are important, but here are some things that are equally important that are just life experiences that you've never gotten to have before. And it's really those experiences that we see begins a lot of their recovery in an art class, or when we go out to a farm and they get to see farm animals and learn how to, it's those kind of things really that jumpstart their recovery versus just sitting in a class. So
the local press has really picked up on the sex trafficking issue, and I'll be honest, and I have 3 girls. I've never been aware of what was going on, and obviously we do have a serious problem here in the Shreveport-Bossier area.
Yeah, obviously prostitution has always existed, and I think currently human trafficking is a popular buzzword, and so I think the problem hasn't gotten bigger. I think the
awareness,
the awareness is larger, which is incredible. But in our community, we do have human trafficking, but there's a difference between human trafficking and just working in the sex industry, and so purchase kind of exists to address both sides of it and give women who are in the sex industry by choice the opportunity and the resources that they need, and then to advocate for actual victims of human trafficking.
And again, we've talked about your faith and why you were involved. I mean, obviously, this is not something easy as a female to deal with. I mean, and you have to be dealing with some folks whose story is just incredible, but incredibly heartbreaking. I mean,
it's very difficult, and no matter how long you do it, at least for me, you never get used to it. You never kind of, the edge never comes off of those things. And so as a staff, we have things in place like required counseling and a bunch of things for our staff just to make sure that we don't disappear under the weight of their trauma.
Yeah, I could see that could happen easily. Well, again, we've had the privilege of having Cassie Hammett here, and she is the executive director of the Hub, doing some really good things. If someone wants to do something, go to your website, which is
thehubministry.com.
All right, and you can do donations, you can volunteer, you can find out more and more about the Hub.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Mike Wood sitting in for C.L. Bryant. When we return, we have one of my favorite students, Pat Matchison, who is the executive director of SHRAC, who will be in the studio. We'll be right back.
And her boyfriend
Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. We are in the studio with one of my good friends, Pam Matchison, who is the Executive Director at SRAC, Shreveport Regional Arts Council. And Pam, you've got a busy summer going on.
Yes, I do, Professor Woods. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Pam was one of my...
Mike's been called a lot of things on this show.
Professor.
But Professor has never, this is a first.
There we go.
Well, I had the privilege of teaching Pam and others in my nonprofit management class at LSU Shreveport, and Pam was gracious enough recently, and she was honored and highlighted with the LSUS Alumni magazine, and they did an article on her, and she was nice enough to say a few kind words about me. So anyway, thank you. I
learned a lot.
Well, I hope you did. I learned a lot too. I missed teaching the class. I spent 10 years in there and had the privilege of teaching a lot of the nonprofit folks here in Shreveport Bossier area, and hopefully they'll reinstate it one day, and we can get back in the classroom, because I'm a frustrated college professor, as you well know.
Well, it was an exciting time, and many of those experiences that we talked about now are coming to life in programming this summer, and certainly have come to fruition in the life of the Arts Council. I sort of had to curse you for a while there when our building was set on fire by an arsonist.
You were baptized by fire.
Case studies that we did in your classes. What if you lose everything? And I thought, well, this is awfully extreme, and had no idea that it would mean that to lose everything would be to gain everything.
Well, and
more.
you recovered nicely by moving into the old fire station
That's
downtown,
right.
and that has been a tremendous blessing for SRAC. You also have art space downtown.
Right.
And,
And this summer, things are sizzling.
What's happening?
So anyone who says, oh, it's too hot to get out, starting tomorrow morning, we'll hope that there are some parents and grandparents listening who would know that every Tuesday at 10 a.m. we have a story reading session at Art Space. The exhibit that's up right now is called Phases, a 5-year retrospective of Moonbot, and then upstairs there's the art side of the moon. So when we talk about art and economy and cultural growth for our community, it is exciting that one of the great things that's happened in our arts community is that Bill Joyce, Brandon Oldenburg, and Lampton Enoch founded the Moonbot Studios over 5 years ago, animation studios. And they've had over 10 major successful projects. All of those projects, including their Oscar Award, their Emmy Awards, their Annie Awards, are all on display right now at Art Space. But it's not enough to see the art. We have to get in it, immerse in it, and therefore, seems like week, there's something great going on. Every Tuesday, storytelling, where a professional storyteller reads one of the books by Bill Joyce, and then there are hands-on activities afterwards. And starting this Saturday, every Saturday, we have a camp for students called Stop Motion Animate. And it's designed for middle school students, and it takes place to teach the art of animation. And then there's great things that are happening all along. I will just say one fun one will be July the 25th on Saturday, when we'll team up with the great folks across the street at Robinson Film Center. So you can start at Art Space with a brunch at our brand new cafe, Parish Taco. Jason Brady is the proprietor, and he's opening his newest restaurant in Art Space.
So the food will be delightful.
I believe, Professor Woods, that we talked about earned income as a major way that nonprofit organizations have to make it in the world, not just on contributed income. So we have this cafe, and Jason Brady, who owns the cafe, Parish Taco. So you can come for brunch, and then at 12:30 go across the street to the Robinson Film Center and see all of the films, a matinee of all the different films that Moonbot has produced. So that'll be a fun day.
Well, tell them your website, because that's where they can see an entire calendar, and your Facebook page of all these events. What would that be?
ShreveArts.org. So think of it as Shreveport, Shreve Arts with an S, because we do all the arts.org. ShreveArts.org.
And the address to Art Space
is 710 Texas Street. So you just come right downtown. If you come in on Common Street, see the church on the left at the head of Texas, and take that right turn, and we're in the middle of that 700 block of Texas Street.
Now, is there a fee to go into this? So you're providing at Art Space, 710 Texas Street, an opportunity for grandparents to bring their grandchildren, moms that have their kids at home, come in during hours of like 9 to 5, and see these displays.
That's right. Now, the coming in is all free from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m.
10 to 5, okay.
Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through
But
Saturday.
the special activities like the storytelling, there's a small fee associated with that, which you can see and make a reservation on the website. And the summer Saturday camps for middle school students has a small nominal fee associated with it as well. But come in anytime and
just
see these
visit.
exhibits and visit, and it's all free.
You know, the summer animation camp got my attention when I served on the UL System Board of Supervisors. ULL has a big animation department, and of course it's in the computer sciences division, which never dawned on me. And they had just developed, as a result of Katrina, a lot of the students from Tulane's film group were at ULL, and the idea of motion capture had just come about. And Michelle, if you've never seen it, they will put a ballerina in this studio and put certain devices on her that register as they fire lasers and everything. And so as the kids are developing a dancer in a cartoon, it's an actual, the motion is fluid, unlike the cartoons that you and I grew up where everybody kind of was herky-jerky. But
and we have Moonbot Studios right here. And I
Right
think
here.
when we come back, though, we need to ask her, because a lot of people don't know how long you've been with Shrek and what is Shrek and how it contributes to the community.
Great.
Yeah.
and she's got some really interesting stories. One of
Yeah.
the things that we shared in my class, every nonprofit went through some of the trials and tribulations, and this lady truly has been baptized by fire. When she became executive director, there were all kind of issues that she had to deal with that she was not aware of, and then, as she said, her building burned down, and so anyway, it's been a great success story. Your kids have benefited from her third grade art education class.
There you
Your
go.
kids actually danced one year at
I benefited
Christmas
from
in the
Pam
Sky.
Atchison.
Well, anyway, Mike Wood sitting in for C.L. Bryant. We're here with Pam Atchison, Executive Director of SHRAC, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks. Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. This is Mike Woods. We're sitting in the studio, Michelle and I, with Pam Atchison, who is the executive director of SRAC. And Pam, you mentioned during the break that you have been involved now 20 years with SRAC?
Well, I think a little longer, but 1986 to 19, wherever we are, 2016. I think that's 30 years.
Oh my, that's 30 years. I can do the math.
But I feel like I'm only 20 years old.
Well, you only look 35, so yeah.
That's exactly right. All right.
And you, I mean, we laugh about being baptized by fire, but you have been through some really interesting times. Why don't you kind of walk us through when you very first became the executive director, what all was
in
involved?
1986. That was a different time in Shreveport.
In 1986, we just learned that nonprofits really had to do things like pay payroll taxes. And our organization thought that was, somewhat optional. That's right. And so we started off with some legal issues that were quickly resolved. We had a great accountant in Scott Massey, who's still an accountant in Shreveport, and told us what we needed to do to get those paid. And Christmas in the Sky started coming into its peak at that time. Michelle, you've been a big part of that event, Christmas in the Sky, once every 2 years. And it started us on a great savings plan and allowed us to really be prepared for emergencies that we didn't expect. Although it did not prepare us for a 2009 fire. So between the early years of 86 to 2009, certain arts and education programs really became rooted in our community, and every school had an artist in residence. Those turned into full-time teachers, and I couldn't be prouder to know that part of the work that's taken place and taken root is at every school in Caddo Parish and most every school now in Bossier, and lots of homeschools, charter schools, all have, and private schools, of course, all have art and music teachers and theater teachers at the heart of the curriculum instruction. We don't yet have a fine arts dance program. We have never been able to convince parents, teachers, and students that being on the dance line is not the same as being a dancer. So we, however, think that arts education is really the basis, the foundation for for students to bloom into artists, and for students who are not going to be artists to bloom into arts appreciators and supporters. So we really believe in it.
What is it about the arts that we have a hard time convincing our educators and our community that there is a need to have musicians, there is a need to have artists and dancers? I mean, why is that hard to get that idea across?
It is very hard for, first of all, taxpayers, because it all starts with what do you pay for? And it's hard for taxpayers to accept that artists are small business professionals. And part of the reason that it's hard to accept it is that it's not enough to end up from college with an MFA. Master's in Fine Arts doesn't teach you the entrepreneurial skills that are necessary to actually sell your work. It teaches you how to produce beautiful work. And our country is not comfortable with the idea that beautiful or thought-provoking or edgy or controversial or make you think about it hard work is actually work. We want to label that as something that people who can't work do. They play. And I think it's because artists genuinely enjoy their work. And as Americans, we've sort of been raised that work is the thing you don't enjoy, and play is the thing you do after
like you,
work.
Mike Woods. Yeah, you grumble all the time about it.
Yep.
But there's other economic impacts
of course,
that SRAC has had to the city. I mean, every mayor that we've talked to has said that when companies, and that's what our listeners need to hear, because they're the taxpayers, when companies come to Shreveport and North Louisiana and say, well, we're considering 200 middle management jobs, but talk to me about your arts that are available. Why is that?
Well, they want to know what there is to do that's going to keep their employees here. You know, we're now talking about a millennial generation of people who think first, what is there to do? And then, how will I make my living? And that's why these initiatives, like the new Shreveport Common neighborhood with the Caddo Common green space, are so important, because we're trying to attract two kinds of people to Shreveport. The young people who will make their living here. There are more than 3,000 jobs in the technology field that are either here or coming here from Minden to Shreveport, 3,000 jobs. And we need to be competitive and get those younger people. But we also need to be competitive and realize that seniors,
Yes,
that's anyone
retirement.
over 55. There are none of us in this room. But those people now have fluid money. We're the dinks, double income, no kids. We're not looking to buy china anymore or to buy a new sofa. We're looking for what is there to do that's fun. Where's the walkable community, bikeable community? Where is the place where I can do it yourself, do it myself? And so in Shreveport Common and downtown Shreveport, I think that's where you're going to find this economy if people can stumble upon the fun, and that's the economy we're trying to create.
Well, and I think that people need to realize Shreveport is being looked at as a retirement possibility.
That's right.
More so than it had been before, because the cost of the real estate and the cost of living is not very expensive. Where people always retired on the coast of Florida and California, it's astronomical to live there. So they're looking at places like Shreveport, but yet you can be in Dallas in no time. So that is something that we really do need to focus on, Mike. Economic development, looking at how are we attractive to retirees. The number of retirees is increasing in
Absolutely.
America
Baby
all the
boomers are
time.
ready
Yes,
to-
exactly.
Well, and as we talked about last week, that one of the importance of the medical school, and it was pointed out that a lot of the doctors who come in are interested in the opera, are interested in the arts, are interested in the ballet,
symphony, the dance,
and
right.
and so we are able to provide, as you so greatly pointed out, an avenue for people who want all that stuff. And as someone who has become interested in art later in life, primarily because of our Santa Fe home, I'd never bought a piece of art in my life until about 10 years ago. And believe it or not, this may shock you, I have a lot of contemporary art. I have a lot of bronzes.
That does shock us. I'm more
It does not
believing
shock
about
me.
Yeah, see how
He is
nice
a
she is.
well-educated man.
But
That's
I also
exactly-
have a lot of Western art,
Sure.
and I never realized that until I went to Santa Fe and started touring the galleries and
Right.
saw all that was available. So that's what's so great, that you're providing the community different alternative art projects that people can go and see and enjoy. We're coming up on a break. We're going to keep Pam for another segment, and we'll be back in a second. Mike Woods for CL Bryant.
Just long enough to grab a handle off the top. Next stop, Chi-Town, Leo.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. This is Mike Woods filling in for C.L. tonight, who is in Washington, D.C., and will be returning later in the week. We have with us in the studio the Executive Director of the Shreveport Regional Arts Council, a longtime friend, Pam Atchison. And it's kind of like Old Home Week, Michelle. We're sitting here visiting with all the things that your children and my children have been involved with, and with Pam. And again, the community is much better off because of people like Pam who are willing to give of their time and their efforts to.
She works 20 hours a day, and it's amazing to me that she's still doing it after 30 years. 30 years.
Well, arts make you young. They keep you young and healthy and fit, and it's a fun job. A lot of people say silver platter. I haven't found the silver yet, but you know silver can tarnish a little bit.
There you go.
Anyway, we have a great deal of
and
fun.
Christmas in the Sky,
And
you kind of alluded to that, but there was that was written up as the #1 fundraiser in the South.
And then, excuse me, I'm sorry, the world.
Ooh, whoa,
The world. You got to
the world.
take your bragging
Christmas in the
moments,
Sky. And
that's
here we
right.
are in North Louisiana with that kind of creativity,
Right.
worldwide impact. And that fundraiser is once every 2 years.
And it's coming up this year,
Coming
isn't
up
it?
this year,
What is the
December
date?
10th at Harrah's Louisiana Downs, and tickets will go on sale in November, but sponsorships and auction items we're out there right now asking for.
Aren't you having a preview party soon?
July the 6th, that's the kickoff, right after the 4th of July. You'll come back rested and ready
tan,
to work.
and all tan.
Come out to Harrah's Courtyard at the Louisiana Downs, and we will have a big party to get people started on glittering, gluing, hammering, and assembling all kinds of sets and props. It's a lot of fun, and we have lots of snacks due to the good help from our friends at Silver Star and Eagle Distributing, and also Republic, who make it, and Coca-Cola, make it a very fun night. And every Wednesday and Thursday, then, we'll be working on building Christmas in the Sky.
What is this year's theme?
Just like tonight's show, we're all mad here, and it's a great takeoff on Alice in Wonderland. So you'll go down the rabbit hole with us and turn your imagination on and never return to reality.
And if you've never had a chance to go, it is, they literally transform the entire Louisiana Downs into magic.
That's right, Wonderland.
Wonderland.
This year we'll turn it into Wonderland.
My wife doesn't like me to go because of the way some of the women are attired, but it's a good time, I promise you.
Well,
one night of magic.
One night of magic, and then the money that you raise from those tickets.
Lasts
Tell us
2
what that
years.
does. It lasts 2
One
years.
night funds programs for our community and our mission, which is to maximize access to the arts. You know, we're here to develop, promote, nurture, produce, present all of the arts for all of the people in Shreveport and Northwest Louisiana. We are a 10-parish arts council, and with the money we produce the Art Break Festival. We've been talking a little bit about how the arts get started at Art Break. We do all the programming at Art Space. Our director at Art Space is none other than Bill Joyce, who selects all kinds of exciting shows for us. And I've told you about Moonbot right now, but you know, if you're interested in something a little more adult oriented, we're going to have the Art of the Tattoo coming up in the latter part of August with an internationally renowned artist from California named Sean Barber. And then we also do all the programming at the Central Art Station, which is 65% created for use by artists. So this coming up in the fall for around the Halloween time, River City Rep Theater, under the direction of Patrick McWilliams, will be producing none other than... Oh my God, the show just went out of my Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I was going to go. I said everything but the name of the show. So artists will be use the Central Art Station, and then of course the other huge initiative that we have is collaborating with partners in the community. Like on August the 20th, when we partner with the Stan Lewis family, Stan and Lenny and Garland Jones, to produce a very diverse festival around Stan the Record Man, bringing in artists that he either recorded or he manufactured their records.
Paula Records.
Or he distributed them, like Paula and Ron Records.
Now, is that
we'll have a
local?
big-
Was he local?
He is. Oh, Stan the man had record stores here in Shreveport.
His record
and
store was right next to Art Space
Space,
at
that's
the
right.
head of Texas Avenue.
What
and-
year
Had
would
one
this
on-
Well,
be?
it was when I was
Highway.
growing up back in the late
my God,
50s.
1800s.
Yeah, I mean that was the record store in town was
Stan
Stan
the Man.
Record.
It
And
was
so
the
you're-
vinyl, that man known for, recording and manufacturing and distributing vinyl all over the
So
world.
he was recording and manufacturing right here in Shreveport, next to where you are.
Right, that's right.
And what groups did he record?
The Uniques.
Isley Brothers.
Right here in Shreveport.
He
Right.
recorded Charlie Daniels' band first. He actually recorded Aretha Franklin when she was 11 years old, playing for her dad, C.L. Franklin.
One of my
preacher.
favorites, the New Beats, Bread and Butter.
That's right. That's right.
So
Lots
he-
going on. So August 20th, we'll have a big festival that day, all day, Saturday, and you'll be able to come.
My
free,
husband's
free,
birthday
free,
present.
free,
There you go.
And hear great music. We're going to bring in the Masters of Funk for this event. It'll be a lot of fun.
And it's going to be at
And
Art Space.
It'll be right in front of Art Space. The
Okay.
stage will be out in the middle of Texas Street. It'll be hot, but it'll be happening with another big event for our city called Slide the City, which is a 3-block water slide that will be on Common Street from the head of Common all the way down 3 blocks later to Fannin. So you'll slide the city. That's not free. And then you'll do the Stan Lewis Fest, which is free. It'll be a huge sizzling hot day. Slide
August the
and
20th.
sizzle,
Well,
August 20th.
and we're going to keep you again. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the economic impact
Impact
that
of all
Shrek
this.
has had
Yes.
in our community.
That's great.
We got all kind of things happening in Shreveport. Again, Pam Atchison, Executive Director of Shrek, in here at the studio. And when we come back, we're going to learn more about what all Shrek has got coming up for the upcoming summer. Mike Woods sitting in for C.L. Bryant. We'll be back in a second. Welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. This is Mike Wood sitting in the studio. Michelle and I have Pam Matchison, who is the Executive Director of Shreveport Regional Arts Council. During the break, we were talking about the economic impact that SHRAC has in the city. You have an annual budget of over $3 million?
That's right. But when you take, Mike, all of the art organizations in Northwest Louisiana, there are about 45 art and cultural organizations, nonprofits in Northwest Louisiana, and not including any of the artists themselves, just those organizations have a combined $90 million annual economic impact. And what I'm really impressed with is that we employ 2,400 full-time job equivalents, and we contribute $55 million to the annual household income. And we return back in taxes $13.5 million in state and local taxes.
That's pretty good bang for your buck.
Here we are asking for annual allocations from the state. It is a fact that we hope to get back one day to the idea that every man, woman, and child in Louisiana is worth $1 for the arts, which would be about a $4.2 million annual budget in state funding for the arts. But indeed, right now, the state funds $150,000. $150,000 in arts funding. And so we really have to make this case about the importance of arts funding. But generally speaking, when you take all public funding for an art organization, for every $1 that an art organization receives in taxpayer money, we're returning $11 in programs and services and raising that other $10 from the private sector, some from earned income, and certainly from corporate and foundation support.
Well, and one of the things that you said earlier, Pam, that impresses me, and hopefully we can get it working in the other non-for-profits, the arts community works with each other. I mean, you work with those 45 other nonprofits. I mean, the Robinson Center and others. And as someone who gives back to the community, I appreciate the fact that you aren't trying to reinvent the wheel that somebody else has already invented. I mean, you're working with others. We had talked a little bit about Shreveport Common. Why don't you kind of elaborate a little bit more what's going on there?
Well, Shreveport Common is this 9-block uncommon cultural niche that connects our HUD choice neighborhoods, which are Allendale and Ledbetter Heights, to downtown. We're sort of the bridge between Allendale, Ledbetter Heights, and downtown. And this is really designed to be a neighborhood that attracts millennials and seniors, and so that tells you it's not really a family neighborhood, but it's family oriented. How about that? We're looking at about 250 residential units. And how exciting is it, speaking about collaboration, that 1 block away already, the former Sears building is now the Lofts at 624 Texas, and ready to open up probably within 3 months. I know you'll have Jeff Everson come on and talk about the Lofts, but people are ready to live downtown. So we're ready for them to live in an arts-oriented, arts-led community that respects the churches that are already in the neighborhood, the social service organizations like the Stellar Providence House and Mercy Center, and the VOA McAdoo for disabled citizens, and also the VOA Lighthouse. These are 4 stellar organizations in our community that are making a huge difference in the lives of their clients and their residents. And now we are coming in hoping to be neighbors and show that artists have a lot of opportunities in outreach. We recently brought in an artist nationally known named Nick Cave, and we involved the whole community in making beaded blankets that tell the story of your life, and then those blankets were featured along with the residents in a big production called As Is. And my favorite DIY story is the family where the father had literally 3 days off before he was going to work nonstop in October, not a day off until Christmas Day. I'll let you guess who he worked for, that he would not have 1 day off between November 1 and Christmas Day.
A restaurant?
And he made his beaded blanket all in brown, and there were 4 orange beads in it. Who did he work for?
Go ahead.
UPS.
What has Brown done for you lately? He said to me, UPS. So that kind of engagement in the arts is what really keeps us going and keeps it fun. Go
Well,
ahead.
revitalizing downtown is exciting. I have 4 children who have all moved away. My son lives in downtown Dallas, right next to the American Airlines Center.
Oh, my goodness.
My
What a
daughter
life.
lived in downtown Fort Worth for the longest time. She's now out in the suburbs of Argyle. But at a time when we need to bring our young folks back, a rejuvenated downtown with things to do.
That's right.
We'll bring those kids back. So
And bring in the retirees. I mean, this is
So, Michelle, we're looking for your children to say, I live in downtown Shreveport, in Shreveport Common, the Uncommon Cultural District.
And is part of that? I know the area in front of the fire station at one time was a parking garage. Is that
Right.
Is that part of that area?
Ford Andrus
Okay.
building, historic building, is right in there. It's the Central Art Station's like the fish in the middle of this big bowl, but it is all the way to the Strand Theater. Then you go to the Calanthian Temple, and then we go to Providence House, and as far back as Millennium Film Studios.
Did you get to keep the brass fire pole in the firehouse?
There are 5 of them, sir. There were at the time 4, and we had to take one and cut it into 2 pieces to keep it in the building. So there are 5 fire poles, 2 that actually work.
Oh wow!
So come down.
I wanna
and,
come slide.
Let's talk about what it takes to slide down the fire pole.
insurance, lots of liability insurance.
Yeah, you may have a hole in the floor when I go down, but I've always wanted to slide down the fire pole.
We can make that happen.
Okay.
All right.
As we go into the break, this is Mike Woods. We're sitting here with Pam Atchison and Michelle, and CL is in Washington, D.C. We'll be back, and we'll be back after the break. Thank you. As we wrap up the final segment, this is Mike Wood sitting in tonight for C.L. Bryant with Michelle, and we have Pam Atchison, the executive director of SHRAC. Tell us your website once again.
ShreveArts.org, ShreveArts.org. Everything is on there. Great calendars for the whole summer. Great activities coming up. And remember, Wednesday, July the 6th, come out to the Harrah's Louisiana Downs Courtyard. Follow the flamingos. You know, Wonderland has wonderful flamingos. Follow the flamingos for our opening volunteer night.
And Christmas in the Sky will be held when?
Saturday, December the 10th, 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. The biggest, longest, wildest, funnest, greatest benefit in the world.
I got to come. Winter tickets going on sale for that.
They'll go on November 1.
November 1.
Right now we are anxious. The auction is the largest auction in Northwest Louisiana with 900 auction items. Anyone who would like to get their product before a great audience, give us a call and let us
They can get all that at your website.
on the website.
And that's
right,
www.shrevearts.org.
Very good.
Thank
And
you
the
so
event
much.
sells out, doesn't it?
It does sell out.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
don't wait. All righty. We have had a great evening tonight, and Pam, thank you for coming. Michelle, we've had a good conversation. Hopefully our listening audience has been enlightened.
Yes.
And,
we solved the problems of the universe.
Again, as someone who's born and raised in Shreveport, it's great to have local folks who are solving local problems and are enthusiastic. And Pam, you are one of those, and we are thankful that you're here. Michelle, CL will be back tomorrow.
He will be back tomorrow and tell us all about his exciting adventures in Washington, D.C., and we'll solve the rest of the world's problems tomorall.
Okay, well, I'm going to
Well, we
leave it to
appreciate
you.
you coming. So you think the price of oil is going to rebound from this $4 deduction?
That's what all the talking heads are saying. There's a 50-50 chance that we're going into a worldwide recession, but I don't think that's going to happen. The U.S. is doing fine.
The dollar is,
dollar is strong, which really isn't good for U.S. We need a weaker dollar because we lose our export capacity when we have a strong dollar because our products are more expensive.
But as tourists, when you travel abroad, you get more bang for your dollar.
Now's a good time to go to England because
or to France.
And the good news is with low oil prices, airfares are cheap. We just came back from our grandkids in Hawaii, and it was one of the cheapest tickets I've ever bought to go to Hawaii. So I think there's going to be some economies to benefit from, and also there's some money still to be made. Don't panic over the stock market. There's still some areas that once things get stable, the world hates instability, and that's what's happening with this Brexit vote. Well, anyway, thanks for CL. Thanks for letting me sit in tonight. Thanks to the men and women who serve in our armed forces. Thanks to those who represent us on the police and fire force, and thanks to the listening audience. This is Mike Woods sitting in for C.L. Bryant. Thank you much.
And to the families left behind, we'll stand by your side, and the bond will never be torn for those who wear the uniform.